Welcome back. Big banks set to report earnings next week, with JP Morgan and Citigroup kicking things off on Tuesday. Joining us now to talk about the state of banks and the global economy, BNP Paribas U.S. CEO Jean-Yves Fillon. Jean-Yves, thanks so much for joining us. Good afternoon to you.
Well, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
I thought I'd start, actually, because just a couple of blocks ago we were talking about a particular deal in the works in the tech space. But are you seeing a lot more M&A and a lot more in the pipeline at the moment?
Do you mean in the tech industry or in the banking industry?
Broadly, no, as in terms of your clients across all sectors.
Well, it's really sector-driven, and it really depends on, and it will depend on how the pandemic evolves, really. Obviously, in the sectors that have benefited from this pandemic, and you named, one of them, but it's not limited to this one, we might continue to see some activity there. I think to see a more robust trend in M&A, it's really going to be depending on how fast the recovery takes place in 2021.
In terms of recovery, as we look at the U.S. economy, how reliant do you think it is on fiscal stimulus coming in the next couple of weeks or months?
Well, for sure, I think there is no debate, by the way, in the United States, and it's a similar dialogue in Europe, that there is going to be a need for more fiscal support. We have still a lot of uncertainties. Well, you mentioned the U.S. elections here, but we have an ailing economy. We still have no vaccine, and it's going to have to be widely distributed. Then fiscal support will have to take place. The real question is how deep, how broad, and it's all going to be depending as well on how long the pandemic lasts and how fast we can distribute and develop the vaccine.
What are you seeing in the U.S. economy, in the loans, in small businesses and lenders? We're 3% off a record high for the S&P 500. Does that match up with what you're seeing?
Well, I think we've seen, and at BNP Paribas, we've been very active supporting our clients worldwide and in the United States. You have two types of corporates. You have the ones the larger one, the listed one, who really have access to capital markets. And it's been quite easy or functional for them to access capital markets, to do capital raising or to do liability management. As you highlight, Sarah, well, the smaller enterprises, mid-caps, have been more challenged because they don't have this access. And this is where the banking industry had to play a role, extending lending. By the way, participating to some of the government programs. At BNP Paribas in the U.S., we've been very active in participating to the Paycheck Protection Program, supporting these smaller enterprises. We processed, 18,000 applications, converting into $4 billion of lending. We probably supported and protected 500,000 jobs doing so. Then that's the way the smaller enterprise have been supported here.
Jean-Yves, clearly the Fed has said recently that it expects to keep rates very low for quite some time. With your knowledge of how European banks have had to endure incredibly low rates, even negative rates in Europe for the last decade or so, are you fearful that margins will be pressured in the U.S. for banks for the next 5-10 years?
Well, it's clear that a low rate environment for banks is not the most favorable environment. As it relates to BNP Paribas, being European based, we've been very used to navigating, well, not only low rates, but negative interest rates for many years, and we're pretty well equipped. Another mitigant for banks, vis-a-vis the rate environment, is really being diversified and having a diversified business model in terms of activities, but in terms of geographies, and that is something that has really helped us develop and grow activities sustainably and profitably.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.